crash report expected to be ready by second week of September. Government fully committed to support NIMP 2030 implementation. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight with me. I'm Jessica Lee. Now, an initial report on the Beechcraft Model 390 or the Premier 1 aircraft which crashed along the Elmina Highway in Shah Alam on the 17th of August may be issued in the second week of this month. Now, Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siu Fook said data in the 30-minute long voice recording found in the memory puck component is still being analysed.
Mina belum lagi, data itu masih dianalisa. Seperti yang saya telah janjikan, laporan awal akan dikemukakan 30 hari selepas insiden. Maka saya mencangkakan laporan awal akan dapat kita keluarkan pada minggu kedua bulan September.
Speaking to the media in the federal capital, the minister said the data containing the voice recording was previously sent to Florida, United States, for extraction. The laboratory in Florida said that the data is fully intact and that the voice recordings are in good shape for analysis. Now, all the data from the last 30 minutes before the crash has been downloaded and sent to the investigative team in Kuala Lumpur. Solicitor General Dato' Ahmad Teriruddin Muhammad Saleh has been appointed as the new Attorney General with effect from the 6th of September. Now, he replaces Tan Sri Idris Harun, who will step down as his contract ends on the 5th of September. Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri Mamazuki Ali, through a statement, informed that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah had consented to Teriruddin's appointment in accordance with Clause 1 of Article 145 of the Federal Constitution. Now, under the aforementioned article, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall, on the advice of the Prime Minister, appoint a person who is qualified to be a federal court judge to be the Attorney General for Malaysia. Now, Tan Sri Mamazuki also expressed his appreciation to Tan Sri Idrus for his service to the country during his tenure as Attorney General. Tan Sri Idrus, the former federal court judge, was appointed Attorney General on the 6th of March 2020. He had previously received a reappointment for 6 months earlier in March this year. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah extended his highest appreciation and congratulations to the Unity Government over the extraordinary 2023 National Day celebrations organised at Dataran Putrajaya yesterday. Now, Comptroller of the Royal Household of Istana Negara, Major General Datuk Zahari Muhammad Arifin, said His Majesty also expressed admiration with the involvement of government departments and agencies as well as the private sector. He said the National Day celebrations this year were truly a meaningful one for both Al-Sultan Abdullah and the Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Aziza Amina Maimuna Iskandaria, as their majesties had celebrated the momentous occasion for the final time as king and queen. He also said that Al-Sultan Abdullah was touched and thanked the people of various races who had attended and supported the historic event. The King also expressed pride over the spirit of patriotism seen in the National Day celebrations organised across the country. His Majesty hoped this spirit of unity is a reflection of the closeness of the people, which would go on to strengthen national harmony. Now, the government is fully committed to supporting the implementation of the new Industrial Master Plan 2030 or NIMP 2030, which requires an estimated total investment of 95 billion ringgit through its 7 years. Now, speaking at the plan's launch, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the investment will be mainly from the private sector, mobilised from private equity, capital and financial markets. The Premier said close to 10% will be allocated by the government to help catalyse and incentivise these investments via the NIMP Industrial Development Fund and the NIMP Strategic Co-Investment Fund.
Hence, the NIMP will be implemented through a whole-of-nation approach that not only involves the government machinery, but also the private sector by working collaboratively to achieve the vision and goals. We will form a dedicated national NIMP 2030 Council with the participation of relevant ministries and industry representatives.
Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also the Finance Minister, said a delivery management unit under the Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry will be set up to coordinate all efforts and drive cohesive implementation across stakeholders. Now, he also expressed confidence that the NIMP 2030 will help in the country's hope for a better, more dignified Malaysia by providing the necessary guidance and clear direction for the development of the manufacturing sector as a key driver of national economic growth and prosperity. Now, on another note, the Premier said the NIMP 2023 is aimed to increase the manufacturing sector's value added by 6.5% to 587.5 billion ringgit by 2030, derived from the Master Plan's interventions for high-impact sectors. The high-impact sectors include electrical and electronics, chemical, electric vehicle, aerospace and pharmaceutical.
In terms of employment, as projected, growth at 2.3% from 2023 is expected, providing livelihood for 3.3 million persons by 2030. The industry's growing employment trajectory is due to the creation of high-skilled jobs as the country advances towards high-value-added activities and improvement in automation and technological advancements.
Datuk Seri Anwar added that the government is confident that the strategies in NIMP 2030 would yield meaningful outcomes and produce a big impact on the national economy. Now, in response to the plan's launch, industry players agreed that the NIMP 2023 has set the breakthrough agenda for the Malaysian manufacturing sector's next takeoff in the new green industrial age. Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers FMM President Tan Sri Sotian Lai said adopting a mission-based approach is essential for ensuring the competitiveness of our small and medium entrepreneurs or SMEs.
Because currently our SMEs, they have not adopted latest technology. So the government, based on the mission base, and they have funds to support the SMEs, and SMEs can become export-oriented. The investments is that if you are mission-based, if you are effective and efficient, the foreign direct investments are confident they will come here. At the same time, our DDIs, domestic direct investors, if they have a very good results, the FDIs will look into their performance. And then if they are good, they will come in so that they have become part of the global supply chain.
I think it's a good initiative, a good roadmap, because in the chemical manufacturing industry we produce a lot of chemicals, but then the source is coming from normally fossil fuel, and also with the fossil fuel it contributes to a lot of CO2 emission to the environment. Yeah? So I think it's important for the chemical industry to play an active role, to work closely with the government on how to reduce the carbon emission in general, especially to support the Malaysian aspiration to net carbon zero by 2050.
The Budget 2024, which will be tabled in October, will focus on empowering and strengthening the middle class and the small and medium enterprises, or SMEs. Now, Deputy Finance Minister 2, Stephen Sim Chi Keong, said this is because the middle class group constituted the community that was the most affected during the pandemic.
One of the key fokus utama dalam belanjawan 2023 ialah memperkasakan middle class. Nombor duanya ialah memperkasakan SME. Sebab kita tahu SME merupakan penjana pendapatan, mewujudkan pekerjaan kepada rakyat Malaysia. Jadi kita juga dalam fokus untuk mengurangkan bebanan kos sara hidup.
Sim said Budget 2024 would support Malaysia in achieving its Madani economy vision, namely to restore the nation's dignity by restructuring the economy and improving the quality of life for all Malaysians. The government's mission is to focus on economic growth, fiscal resilience, competitiveness, good governance, inclusive growth, jobs with meaningful salaries, as well as equitable opportunities. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said that he had written to the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and put forward a set of specific proposals on reviving the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Now, Guterres said the UN proposals could form the basis for the resumption of the Black Sea grain export deal, but he did not reveal the details of the proposals. Guterres noted that the United Nations had proposed specific measures to allow Russian grain and fertilizers to enter the global market. Guterres emphasized that if the deal is resumed, a stable extension should be ensured.
We took into concern the Russian requests, and I believe we presented a proposal that could be the basis for a renewal, but a renewal that must be stable. I mean, we cannot have a Black Sea initiative that moves from crisis to crisis, from suspension to suspension. We need to have something that works and that works to the benefit of everybody.
The Black Sea Grain Initiative was brokered by Turkey and the United Nations between Russia and Ukraine in July 2022, which allowed Ukraine to export its grain and other agricultural products from its Black Sea ports. The Statistical Office of the European Union, EU, said in a flash estimate recently that annual inflation in the Eurozone remained stable at 5.3% in August, unchanged from July. According to Eurostat, food, alcohol and tobacco prices were the main drivers of inflation, with 9.8% down from 10.8% in July. The countries with the highest yearly inflation rates for August included Slovakia, 9.6%, Croatia, 8.5%, and Austria, 7.6%. The lowest year-on-year inflation rates, meanwhile, were recorded in Belgium and Spain, 2.4%, Cyprus, 3%, and Greece, the Netherlands, and Finland, 3.4%. At its July meeting, the European Central Bank, or ECB, hiked interest rates by 25 basis points, with President Christine Lagarde stressing that both a pause and a rate hike were possible at the September meeting. Now, the minutes of the July meeting showed the bank was still more concerned about inflation not returning to target than about an economy falling into recession. The European Central Bank has raised its key interest rates by 425 basis points since July last year to bring down inflation, which is hovering well above its target of 2%. Now, France's Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said he had reached a deal with food retailers and producers to step up the fight against inflation, but he singled out Unilever, Nestle and PepsiCo as being among companies which he said refused to cooperate with the agreement. Elaborating further in a televised interview after 2 days of talks with sector executives, the minister said companies agreed to freeze or cut prices on 5,000 everyday products. Now, he also said companies had agreed to bring forward annual price negotiations initially planned for next year to September, with a view of having price cuts from January. The French government is eager to bring the price of food and other staples down, as August data showed food inflation, though easing from a peak earlier this year, is still running at twice the overall inflation rate. And now we move on to the next segment of our bulletin, On the Table. Over to you, Mohana.
Thank you very much. Impact organisation Think City and DBKL recently launched the Creative KL Grants Program and the Creative KL Urban Challenge. On the table tonight, we discuss this initiative and why a culture-based economy is important for the country. With me is Ms. Izan Satrina Mohamed Salihuddin, Senior Director at Think City. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mohana. Thank you so much for having me here.
Let's begin with, perhaps you could briefly explain what the Creative KL Urban Challenge is.
Well, maybe I'll take a few steps back.
Sure.
It originates from a program called the Kuala Lumpur Creative and Cultural District. Mm-hmm. It's a cultural-based economy program that looks into re-energizing downtown Kuala Lumpur. And because we can't all do everything, it requires a multi-stakeholder approach together with Kuala Lumpur City Hall, supported by Yayasan Hasana, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and multiple partners. We also need NGOs, the rakyat, all have the opportunity to play a positive role in this, in transforming the city. Okay. So to help them transform the city, there are two mechanisms. One is a grant, which is a Creative KL Grants Program, and the other is a competition format, which is a Creative KL Urban Challenge. And it really is about, it's a hackathon format where participants are invited to pitch their proposals on what they think would make a difference to their city. And so we've received 76 applications so far. It's been really encouraging. And we've shortlisted to 15 participants, and they've pitched to 6 experts recently, and that's been shortlisted to 8. So it's really quite exciting.
Okay, and what's the background behind this? Why are we doing a competition? What's the idea, the aim, and the purpose behind that?
So if we go back to the Kuala Lumpur Creative Cultural District program, it is there because the city has been hollowing out, and it's the capital city of Malaysia. We have people leaving the city. Of course, we are going to live di Shah Alam, ke Taman Tun, in different parts of the state, and therefore, also the banks are moving out to the financial districts. We have institutions and administration centers moving out to Putrajaya. So the city, as a result of that, is hollowing out. And as a result of that, it has less economic activities. Less economic activities means that maybe it's darker. The city's darker. People come through just during peak hours. They come into the city to work and then they leave. So after work, there's not much activity happening. So as a result of that, interventions were required to ensure that the city continues to thrive. We need to make sure the gem of Malaysia, which is the capital city of the country, continues to thrive in being an economic and social hub. So how do we do that? The challenge was one of the mechanisms that we thought would be good to get more involvement from the public, to potentially pitch ideas, whether it's about creating a better environment for everybody, whether it's about providing better mobility solutions, whether it's about reimagining public housing in the city. These were some of the themes that were provided in the challenge. So as you pitch and you win, you will be provided a prize, which is a grant of 200,000 ringgit, up to 200,000 ringgit, mind you, and you will have the opportunity to implement the idea that you're pitching.
Okay, so the beneficiary of this, the programs that are being pitched, so let's say the program gets implemented, we're looking at the people who live in KL, the residents of KL. And when you say downtown KL, what areas are we talking about?
Sure, sorry for that. Okay, so downtown KL really is where KL started. It's at the confluence of the rivers, and also around Masjid Jame. So it is 1.5, 3 kilometers around Masjid Jame, and it covers the area from Taman Tugu to Merdeka 118, Brickfields to south of Chowkit.
Okay.
And now Kuala Lumpur City Hall, I think, is working on the Kuala Lumpur Structure Plan 2040, which also mentions about the Kuala Lumpur Creative and Cultural District program, but it's expanded in terms of its lens. So there's a broader view that we need to work on moving forward. But at the moment, downtown KL, we are focusing around the historical assets of the city. That's where Dataran Merdeka is at, Karkosa, Srinagar. We have beautiful colonial Merdeka era heritage buildings, and downtown Kuala Lumpur actually has 500 traditional shop lots, shop houses still very much intact.
Okay.
So it is necessary, I think, for us to look into revitalizing our city, similarly to what many cities around the world has done. It's nothing new, really. Singapore, Montreal has taken an approach to revitalize their cities via a creative lens. So it's all about reinventing our city all over again, re-energize it, ensure there's economic and social dividends for the people who come into the city, for people who are living in the city as well.
All right, nice. And how has the Creative KL schemes, how does this program contribute to or align with the Madani economic narrative's objective and vision?
So, yes, the Kuala Lumpur Creative Cultural District was actually, alhamdulillah, mentioned twice by Honourable Prime Minister. Once it was mentioned during the Budget 2023 initiative. So the government is heavily involved in accelerating urban renewal efforts in this program. Secondly, was mentioned during the economic Madani framework that was recently launched. So if we look into some of the values that was mentioned, like care, compassion, trust, sustainability, innovation, prosperity, it does essentially look into ensuring there is equitable distribution of dividends to all citizens of Malaysia. It's just that our lens is looking in Kuala Lumpur. So how do we ensure there is equitable distribution of benefits? It's really, for us, is looking at it in terms of reinventing the city to make sure it functions, to make sure it thrives, and to make sure it creates a livable environment for everybody.
Okay, that's nice. But in general, what are the types of, what do the projects fall into? So we spoke about getting the 15 finalists or semi-finalists. Now we have 8 finalists.
Yes.
And what areas are they looking at? Where's the focus areas for these?
So the program itself, Creative KL Urban Challenge, specifically looks into 3 themes, which is public housing, better environment, and better mobility. So better environment here could be ensuring, let's see if we could use nature-based solutions as a way to create a green environment for the city. How can we perhaps look into better waste disposal management and ensuring the city is clean? So that's the sort of...
And this is why we are partnering with DBKL.
Yes. So Kuala Lumpur City Hall has been very instrumental in ensuring that we are able to implement some of our programs under the Kuala Lumpur Creative Cultural District initiative, because at the end of the day, it involves the area that they are governing.
That's right.
So we do require their input, their validation to some of these initiatives. So these challenges that were evaluated by a panel of judges included, of course, funders. It included Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur. It included also the CEO of Yayasan My SDG, included Cradle, Amranti, so as to ensure that the proposals that they presented, actually is relevant. It can actually be implemented.
That's right.
And potentially also scaled up, not just in Kuala Lumpur, but if it does actually scale up in Kuala Lumpur, could it potentially be done in other cities
That's
as well?
right. That was something I was going to ask. So if it is a scalable program, there is a potential for it to be implemented in other cities in Malaysia as well.
Absolutely. Cross fingers and toes, but of course we're hoping that these initiatives are strong, robust, but the best test is really to get it actually on the ground.
That's right. Okay, so you mentioned environment and you mentioned mobility earlier. Could you give me an idea of what that would mean?
So at the moment, I think one of the let's talk about environment. So one of the pitches that was presented, it's called MOSI, and you'll be able to actually engage with these final 8 participants at Pentas Seni Merdeka, Jalan Raja, Dataran Merdeka on the 9th of September. So you can actually speak to them, understand what are they actually trying to do, and whether I can actually give them input as a rakyat, and whether if I like it, I can also actually vote whether I want them to actually do this initiative. So MOSI, for example, initiative is to really address the problem statement of having better air in the city. So they're talking about installing panels of mosses that has been around for many, many years and has thrived in tropical environments. And the role of the moss is really to clean up the air, suck all the pollution. So I think that's one. The second one, so you must forgive me, I am old. I do not remember the name of the company, but
that's okay. Mobility, perhaps.
Mobility.
Yes.
It's really about not everyone can afford to take the current service systems that are provided by e-hailing platforms. So what they have mooted is really a system where these vehicles, it could be a car or van, only focuses in downtown Kuala Lumpur to ensure, and it's a flat rate. So you can get from one part of the city to another part within a secure and a flat rate environment. Because all they do is their drivers just only focus in circulating in Kuala Lumpur itself. They don't go to other parts of the state. So as to ensure you have that service in a timely manner, and at a fee that you can afford to pay as well.
And I think some of them also aim to have more inclusivity in terms of their project making sure that other people who are usually on the fringe of society, being able to get themselves involved and attend programs which are being held in downtown KL.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point that you brought up, Mahana, because at the end of this day, a successful city is really a city that can serve all citizens, regardless of background. So we need to ensure that we take into account different communities, from the marginalized, whether it's the migrants, rakyat, all must be taken into consideration, because at the end of the day, they are the users, they are the one transiting from one point to another, they are the one that's running the businesses in the city. Let's not forget our artists, our creative practitioners. We need to take all sorts of people and businesses into account.
And how can the public play a part here? So besides meeting them on the 9th, how do we vote?
Yes, most important. So after the state elections, you now get to vote at another platform. You now get to choose, go on to thinkcity.com.my and look into the different finalists, their projects, their videos posted about them. There's a profile on them. You'll be able to understand what they're doing, and you can post and vote if you would like for them to implement their platform or proposal. You see, because at the end of the day, the judges, these 6 experts that judged these finalists and selected them, their scoring is 50%. The other 50% really depends on what the rakyat votes.
It comes from the votes.
It comes from the vote.
That's pretty significant.
It is, because at the end of the day, being inclusive means making sure our people get to shape their own city, what they want the city to transform into, what sort of platforms or interventions, solutions must be taking into account their feedback as well. It's the best validation to actually speak to the people directly, and they should decide.
Thank you so much, Ms. Izan Satrina, for your time, for your insights, and for your sharing today, and all the best with the program.
Thank you, Mahana. Thank you so much. Thank you, RTM.
And that wraps up On the Table tonight. Thanks for watching. It's back to you.
Thank you, Mohana. And that concludes Malaysia Tonight. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for watching. Good night.